But a case in point, I had a guy many years ago that owed $300,000 to the IRS, and he had lost his business, had gotten a divorce, paying child support. Sounds like a country western song kind of deal. I've seen business owners, when things get tight, they cut back on advertising and marketing. And that's probably also the opposite thing that they should do. Too many times, business owners get bogged down working in their business instead of on it.
I've got situations where clients, you got them a lot of different ways. Some clients are not, if they're not making a lot of money, they're not going to pay a lot of taxes. But then on the other hand, you got ones that make a ton of money, but they don't actually like put their taxes in any kind of savings account or anything. So then all of a sudden they get the tax bill and they're like, they don't have it.
This is the Bender CFO Podcast, where we empower business owners to gain financial clarity and maximize growth.
I'm about to have a conversation here with Mike Dunlap. He is a key tax advisor. And not only does he just do regular tax planning strategy returns for individuals and businesses, but also does tax resolution work, which is not something that every CPA does. Situations where people get behind, get penalties, he can abate those penalties. He can sometimes really decrease the amount you owe. And so he has experience with all that. It's a great, impactful discussion with somebody who has so much experience working with small businesses and specifically helping with tax strategy and planning. So I hope you enjoy this interview. All right, welcome everyone to the Bender CFO Services podcast. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Mike Dunlap with over 40 years of experience in taxation, small business consulting, and IRS tax resolution. A licensed Texas VPA since 1987, Mike also holds the CGMA, that's a Certified Global Management Accountant designation. Also has passed the Certified Valuation Analyst exam. The man of many different talents, and his career spans industries like oil and gas, construction, farming, automobile dealerships, with a deep focus on tax planning and helping business owners understand their numbers. Beyond accounting, Mike's a music enthusiast, guitarist, and enjoys travel, golf, and fishing. So welcome, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Shane. Glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely glad. And as we are going through and talking with different advisors, Mike has a tremendous amount of experience with tax, but not just doing your tax return. He goes back and handles complicated IRS resolution. He goes back, cleans up, works with the IRS, tries to minimize the interest and penalties. So there's so much more there. And not every CPA does that, for sure. Anyway, tell us about, I'm curious not only why you've kind of multiple roles here. So the question I usually like to start with is tell us why you pursue this role, but I'm really more interested in like why you want to do the IRS tax resolution work.
Yeah, based on the introduction you gave me, it sounds like I've taken too many tests, but I've just progressed through the years, doing different things, got different interests. About 2 years ago, I got interested in tax resolution. It's up and coming thing. Not a lot of CPAs do it, but a lot of CPAs or most CPAs are faced with it or have clients that are faced with it. And that can be anywhere from not being able to pay the balance due on a tax return. Maybe they filed bankruptcy. Maybe they lost a business. I've got clients that have gotten behind in their payroll taxes, not able to pay the payroll taxes they withhold from employees' checks. That creates a whole different problem. Sometimes it's divorce, sometimes because of death. There's just a whole lot of reasons why somebody might need somebody to be an advocate for them against the IRS. And it's not to prove the IRS wrong, it's to make sure what the IRS is assessing or collecting is correct. And in so many cases, we can go in and because life happens, circumstances change, people's finances change. And so you're able to get them, let's say like an installment agreement to help them pay out over time. You can get penalties or abated, not usually the interest, but penalties, you can get them removed. And then in some cases, you can get what's called an offer in compromise. Those are a little harder to get approved. But a case in point, I had a guy many years ago that owed $300,000 to the IRS, and he had lost his business, had gotten a divorce, paying child support. Sounds like a country western song kind of deal. But anyway, he was in dire straits, and After about a year, we settled it for 30,000. So 10 cents on the
Oh,
dollar.
wow. Yeah.
And the IRS was happy to get it, and he was happy to make that arrangement. So it's basically
Yeah.
to give people a fresh start. And
Yeah.
I really enjoy that work.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's usually life-changing in some cases. So is it one of those situations where the IRS, feels like they just want to take anything versus nothing? When does it get to that level where you could get 10 cents to the on the dollar?
Yeah, and again, not all of the cases work out that way. Sometimes you can get an installment agreement and it's full pay. But in his case, he really had lost everything and didn't have the ability to pay. And
Hmm.
the offering compromise goes through an exhaustive many-page schedule of basically, here are my assets, here's my liabilities, here's my cash flow that I have. And if you can prove to them that this is what's left at the end of the day, they'll usually accept it.
Yeah, that's great. Even just going through the process of getting penalties abated can be worth quite a bit. This can add up
Yeah,
majorly.
I've been very successful in doing that. In the IRS, there's programs that they have that some people don't even know about. If you've never really asked for penalty abatement before, they have a program called first time abatement. And
Hmm.
so they can usually take those off your balance, which helps a lot.
Yeah, that's good. So, like, basically, if somebody has the payroll tax penalties or something like that, it's added up. It's first time, then there's a decent chance they're going to get that abated because it's first time.
Good chance
Yeah.
that they can. That's correct. The thing is,
Yeah.
after that, you've got to stay the course and you can't ask for it again, but there could be a circumstance that pops up that where you can prove what they call as reasonable cause. If there's a
Mm.
reason why you were not able to pay, a good compelling reason, could be a death, could be a bankruptcy or your building burned down or whatever that caused you to file late, then usually you can use that. Disaster areas, something like hurricanes, tornadoes, that causes
Yeah.
problems. And sometimes there's filing issues, and then sometimes penalties are assessed. So you can just tell them the truth, tell them what happened, and a lot of times they'll negotiate with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. So, I mean, I know that you do a lot of different things within taxes. You can answer this question however you want, but I just want to know what are certain trends that you're seeing, industry trends that you're seeing that business owners need to really pay attention to?
Yeah, from a tax standpoint for 2025, which is where we are now, there hasn't been a lot of changes in the tax law, but we do see some talk about some things coming up on the horizon. You may have heard the same thing. Maybe towards the end of 25 or in early 26, the new administration will probably pass some type of tax legislation.
Mm.
Don't know exactly what that's going to be or entail. There's both sides of the aisle are going to negotiate or come up with a compromise, some type of plan. Maybe rates will stabilize. They're not going to change rates. They may bring some deductions back in. Bonus depreciation is a possibility. It's been kind of sunsetting over the last few years with a smaller percentage. So hopefully they'll do some things that will spur the economy on. So that's one thing that's going on now in our world. I think another thing too, another trend that is a big deal, and I'm sure it is in what you do too, is the use of AI. Man, there's just so many things now. It's just almost like every day. There's a new program, a new application, Chat GPT. It's being used in so many different ways now to for research, for creating documents, for creating anything really
Mm.
that you want to do. There's a lot of things coming out in our world, in the accounting world or the tax world with the use of AI. And I see that really changing for all business owners. They need to embrace technology and see what the cutting edge is and the trends are, because that's the future for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but AI is quite interesting. I don't know if I told you about this book earlier when I was the AI driven leader.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
really good one to help with how to use AI in a way that's more like a thought leader and just it
Mhm.
starts to make you use it more as a research tool and decision making tool, not or someone to process thoughts with, which is more different than say, hey, rewrite this email or something.
Yeah.
But like even more, it's gotten smarter with giving you information on sources. So like sometimes you would get information at first, and like, where in the world did I get that? Or is it even correct? But you can just ask for it to tell you where the source is, and then you go directly to it or say, hey, I really just want to know straight from the IRS. I've done that some. I'm not a tax specialist or anything like you are, but sometimes they just do a search and it's helpful.
Right. Yeah, and I've been using it in marketing actions that we're trying to do. You can say create a marketing plan for a tax business for the first quarter of
Yeah.
2025, and it'll spit out all kinds of things and
Yeah.
activities, Facebook ads, Google ads. It gives you all kind of ideas and a timeline. It's almost wow.
Yeah.
It's
It
mind blowing.
is amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. It keeps changing so much. Yeah. So when do you see certain challenges with business owners, like mistakes they're making? Obviously, if they're not paying their payroll taxes and their taxes in general and they get years behind, that's a mistake. That'll come back and bite you. But are there other common mistakes that you see when it comes to tax planning that people can avoid?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about tax planning, one of the things that I see more than anything is just companies or businesses maybe not using the right structure. Case in point, you can form an LLC, which is a great structure. Legally, it protects you. But then you've got multiple options on how to be taxed. You can be taxed as a partnership, you can be taxed as a C Corp, or you can be taxed as an S Corp. And if you're a single member LLC, you can be taxed as a sole proprietor. So basically there's four different ways an LLC can be taxed. And I think just talking through that with somebody, with an advisor, that's what I end up doing a lot. I think is I'll have a new client or a prospective client come in to tell me about their business, and I'll start asking some questions, and they're unclear on what the options are. And so you can kind of show them, okay, if you were a sole proprietor, it'd be this, S Corp this, but here's the things you got to do if you're an S Corp. You got to pay yourself a salary, and you've got to, if you're a partnership, then it's different. You're going to pay self-employment tax because you're considered self-employed. So I think not using the right structure, most people are deducting the things that they need to be deducting because anything and everything that they do in that business is pretty much deductible. But a lot of times they aren't aware of those things. And so talking to an advisor again is probably a good idea to help them understand.
Yeah.
They're operating their business. They're not thinking about taxes. And so just getting some good advice, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah.
Not using technology like we talked about, I think is a mistake. Not just from a tax standpoint, but waiting to hire people. A lot of times people will say, I can't really afford to add somebody, wait till I get the revenue. But a lot of times that's backwards. You need to get the people in there. I've seen business owners, when things get tight, they cut back on advertising and marketing. And that's probably also the opposite thing that they should do. They need to be getting their business out there and promoting it. And then lastly, so many people don't have an adequate accounting system. They'll just use spreadsheets or back of a napkin sometimes to try to figure out their business. They really need to use something like QuickBooks or Gusto or some kind of program that will help them keep track of things, keep the bank reconciled, and let them know where they are. And I think you see that in your business probably a lot too, when you're helping people, that they really need to have a good accounting system.
Yeah, you lead into the collaboration. So I find as a fractional CFO, I really don't want to dabble in the taxes because you need a tax professional, somebody who understands all the changes that are happening in the tax law and helps with strategy, which honestly, sometimes the tax strategy can be different than the business strategy and the operational strategy. Because from a tax standpoint, you're trying to minimize your taxable income effectively, therefore lowering your taxes. But on the other hand, you want your EBITDA to go up and increase the value of your company. It's good from a business standpoint. So there can be some conflicts there from time to time. And then on top of that, as you mentioned, bookkeeping and accounting, fractional CFO, I'm like, I want the bookkeeping and accounting to be in order. We do have a sister company that helps with the bookkeeping and accounting, that because I run in there and I'm like, oh my goodness, the books are a mess, and you really can't do a lot of strategic financial planning. You can't really do forecasting and modeling very well. It's just like all your information, you're in the dark because you don't have that information. So it's hugely important. Fortunately, I don't have very many people that come to me because typically they need to be about over $1 million in revenue before they do, or before CFO services makes a lot of sense. So hopefully by then they have an accounting system. That would
Yeah.
be really tough if you didn't have one. But yeah, that's true. Like, you're starting a business, don't wait on the accounting system. QuickBooks itself has like a QuickBooks Ledger system for $10 a month or something like now. And even the essentials ones, it's not really that expensive. It's just really
Yeah,
no
and there's
reason.
there's even one that's called QuickBooks Self-Employed. I think it's just for a guy that's just running a small business, and
Yeah.
just helps him keep
Yeah.
up with it.
Yeah.
Anything's better than nothing. And as you grow, you'll see the advantage of, keeping up with it. And
Yeah.
sometimes you got to spend time doing the bookkeeping yourself, but then if you could afford to hire a part-time bookkeeper or a service like you're talking about, or a CPA firm has bookkeepers
Yeah.
that can help them make sense of it. Because too many times business owners get bogged down working in their business instead of on it.
Yeah.
I heard that quote at one time, and I thought that made a lot of sense. Staying up late at night, keying checks and making deposits, and not thinking about growing the business or marketing or advertising. So a good
Yeah.
system is important.
Ton of hats you try to wear as a business owner. And I think that's the key of having these advisors to come around you. And you mentioned about hiring. Eventually, you just have to have other people do some of that work, because either you're not the expert, you probably shouldn't be the expert, or it's just time, how much time you have and where your value is more useful, especially when it comes to things like bookkeeping and accounting and
Yeah.
some of the financial arena and taxes. It just all goes hand in hand if you're not keeping it organized and you're not doing forecasting, because that will help you with tax planning. Obviously, if, hey, this is where you're headed for 2025 when we're recording this, then that can tell you a lot about what you potentially will have to pay in taxes in the future, which is
Mhm.
something you need to set aside. I've got situations where clients, you got them a lot of different ways. Some clients are not, if they're not making a lot of money, they're not going to pay a lot of taxes. But then on the other hand, you got ones that make a ton of money, but they don't actually like put their taxes in any kind of savings account or anything. So then all of a sudden they get the tax bill and they're like, they don't have it, even though they made a lot of money having a procedure to save that money, even if you just have a tax account
Yeah.
where that can just go in there and you just keep a certain percentage. Eventually, estimated taxes and things like that help. But I've seen it where people just get behind on that and it's hard to catch up. So,
Always hard to catch up. That's a key point that you made right there. You get behind, and then you think, I'll get this bonus, or I'm going to make this sale, and then I'm going to pay my tax bill or get caught up. And then there's always something that gets in the way of that.
yeah.
Try to stay in front of it if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned some of this advice with businesses trying to improve their financial strategy. What would you, aside from some of the things you mentioned, are there any other things that you might provide advice to help businesses to help improve their financial strategy?
There's a couple of things that comes to mind. One is, and this may be off the subject a little bit, but I think every business owner needs a team of advisors, right? CPA, they need an attorney, they need an insurance guy,
Hmm.
probably a wealth advisor, controller, fractional CFO. You got to have a team approach of people that can help you, because everybody's got a different discipline and everybody looks at it differently. So if you can get that team in place, I think that's a great thing that will help you be successful. Improving the financial strategy, invest in this team or in someone that's good at developing goals, projections, that can benchmarks, things to know uh,
Yeah.
when getting to a certain period in your business, help you know when it's time to hire another person, expand, build a building, buy your own building, whatever. Those are all important things that I think are important to a business owner.
Yeah.
Try to invest in someone that's experienced in developing those skills and helping you come up with a plan.
Yeah. That's great. I definitely like what you said there at the beginning about having these different roles in place, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast, because I've been interviewing ones, different roles. And a lot of times for myself and probably yourself, you've got those different connections too. If you sometimes just asking, if you have a fractional CFO, ask them. If you have a tax, already have a tax advisor, tax CPA, ask them. And
Yeah.
Because they probably know, oh yeah, I can connect you to this insurance person. I can connect you to this attorney. I know these people. Instead of, you can always do Google searches and just find something that works in some cases. But if you have those already networks in place, sometimes they work together already, and it can make it even more be even smoother.
Yeah, and I think it's important that the advisors that you use don't try to be all things, to the client. I'm not going to give you investment advice and do your taxes and,
Yeah,
planning and marketing strategies and whatever like that. I can
yeah,
probably help you do that, but that's not my strength.
yeah,
There's other people such as yourself or a wealth manager or an attorney. I can tell you things legally that you could do, but you need to engage the professional and let them work in their space.
yeah.
And then the team approach really, I think, works well.
Yeah, there's so much to know. Sometimes you just try to, I don't like taxes. I know enough to be dangerous. I'll say, hey, there's an issue here. Let's talk to the tax professional here. And I think that that's good instead of trying to find somebody that knows everything. And you can potentially get a little Chat GPT is nice and you can find some research, but it can also lead you in the wrong direction too. And so you have to make sure, I think there's positives to have more information,
Yeah.
but it also, just like anything, it's kind of like it's kind of like the phone. The phone is great. The iPhone, it's great because you can contact people from anywhere. It's just like everything in one device, but it also can be very distracting and cause you to be just working all the time,
Yeah.
and that's bad too. So there's always pros and cons. So I feel like AI, people are like, oh, there's all these bad things. There's a lot of good things, and then there's the reverse. Oh, you might get some information that leads you to the wrong direction because you just didn't correctly prompt the chat GPT or the AI correctly, and then you went down a bad path. So that's the negative.
Yeah, a little bit of information is a good thing. I think sometimes too much information is overwhelming. And I think you just need to get the advice of several people and listen to good counsel,
Yeah.
and you'll be okay.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody, or actually I heard it, where when the internet came out, the whole travel industry and travel agents were in jeopardy because people would just go on like Travelocity and Expedia and different places, and someone would thought that travel agents would go away. And that in the early 2000s, people thought there'd be no reason to have a travel agent anymore.
Mm.
But travel agents are doing pretty well because if you have a specific thing in mind and you were to search and I want to go to Italy, it's just going to give you so many options that you're like, I just need somebody to tell me exactly what to do. And so that's the point of a travel agent. And I think the same thing with tax advisors and fractional CFOs and wealth managers, unlimited amount of things that you can do. And you just need some really more specific guidance. Just moving on to some questions I like to ask at the end here is just what kind of motivates you in your daily work every day?
I really enjoy what I do. And it's funny, when I first started off, I didn't mention this at the beginning. I was a pre-dental major in college.
Huh.
I was going to be a dentist or an orthodontist, and my dad was a mechanical engineer. So I came naturally to the numbers deal. He was great with numbers and math and science, and I followed in that footstep. And so carpooling in college with a friend of mine, but he was 2 years older, and we were going back and forth one day and out to West Texas. And I said, what are you majoring in? And he was like, accounting. I'm like, yeah, I don't even know what that is really. He explained it, and he was graduating and had gotten an offer from it was a big eight accounting firm at that time, which they've merged and gone away through the years.
Mm.
But I got to thinking about it. I thought, I might like that, working with numbers and helping people. And I had met the lady who became my wife, and I was thinking college, then dental school, then specialty. It's going to be a few more years. I think I'll switch
Mhm.
majors.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
switched majors and loved it, liked what I was doing. I struggled a little bit when I first got out of college and went to work because my personality is not stereotypical CPA. I was like trying to fit this mold.
Yeah.
Wearing the three-piece suit back then in the early 80s and doing audits and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't enjoy it because I didn't really have any people interaction. And
Mm.
so when I finally got to a level, say supervisor or manager level in a firm, my whole world changed. I really enjoyed it because I had client interaction. I was able to
Right.
sit down with somebody and talk through a problem or analyze a problem and see how I can help them. And really, that's what motivates me today. I like sitting down. Tax season, which is where we are right now, is a drag. You've got so many things you got to get done in a short period of time. And the tidal wave comes in. But even during that, you get to sit down with people and talk to them and catch up and visit, and they tell you their financial story. And then you can see how you can help them solve a problem. And especially in the tax resolution work, it's even more so that because you're helping people get their financial life back. So I'd say that's what motivates me. I took a career vocational test one time, said I should be a counselor or a pastor, which was, like working with people and helping them.
Yeah.
So I think I'm doing that, but in the financial world.
Right. Hey,
And
sometimes you got to do that. You got to
yeah. And
talk to
so
these business
you end
owners.
up being a marriage counselor
Right.
sometimes a financial counselor and a tax
Yeah,
person.
right.
But that's what motivates me is just I get up, I know I've got appointments, I'm going to see people, I'm going to talk to them, help them figure it out.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And it's hugely important the role that you're doing with the tax planning, and of course, as we talked about with the IRS negotiation and resolution, and just obviously helping small businesses succeed. And then, of course, that affects families, affects marriages. It's all part of it, and
Yeah, all
so
interrelated.
it's huge. Yeah. I've enjoyed this time today, just talking through, and
That's great. I
I
enjoyed it
think
too.
appreciate you taking a break from doing tax returns and
Yeah,
just
been good.
be able to talk through and help some people here. And you have any last minute thoughts or any things that you want to share?
You had asked me one question earlier or sent me a question that says, how do I define success? And I really thought about that one a little bit, but really for me, it's when I get referrals from existing clients or people like yourself in my network. If they send me a client referral, that's how I define success, because it tells me that I'm doing a good job or helping somebody. And at the end of the day, that's what we're in the service business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's always nice when you get the referral or somebody thinks to send business your way. And like I said, I think that situation with advisors that where you work together and you have the tax person and the CFO and the insurance person, the wealth advisor, and attorney, and all those key professionals, they logically should be able to refer business and kind of stay and provide really a lot of impact to their clients. And so anyway, it's a great discussion today. Appreciate it. And
You're welcome.
anyway, you have a great day. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Shane. I enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for listening to the Bender CFO podcast. Help us out by subscribing on YouTube so you don't miss another episode, or listen to us on Spotify and rate us 5 stars so more people can get this content to help their businesses grow and be successful.